does USCIS look at my old applications? And yes, they do. Absolutely. And maybe not every single application. If you had applied for F1, you're here on F1 visa before, or you applied for DS-160 as a visitor visa, tourist visa. But I can tell you, they certainly look at the DS-160. Okay, especially if you have a case when it's involving a marriage to a U.S. citizen or a resident, and you have that interview here in the United States. Boy, oh boy, here is an example of what you should avoid. Hopefully, you didn't do this already, but just something to keep in mind, because some people have asked us, "Hey, Teen Law Group, does USCIS check my records or my old applications?" And the concern, and usually when someone asks that, then we have a light bulb coming up in our head, a red flag, thinking, "Oh shoot, what in the world did they do?" Okay, y'all gotta be careful. Okay, some people have told us they've hired someone to fill out their application, and maybe because it can be confusing in the country that you live. But if you're watching this and you're not in the U.S. already, I just don't rely on these people that you have to hire. I'm sorry, I put quotations. I meant to not say people, but like these it always seems like, oh, I just hired someone. I don't want to call it like off the streets, but it always seems like that in a way. But in America, we call it like a notary office or notario. The Spanish speakers are more accustomed to getting messed up by notarios. So if you're a notario, I really hope you're doing the right thing. But unfortunately, a lot of us licensed attorneys hear a lot of bad stories. Okay, here's the deal. Like one example, a common example is that the DS-160, when they ask, "Are you married?" people check mark yes when they're not married. You don't lie about that. That's a red flag, okay? Okay, and if they ask that, look, from what I know, at a visitor visa type interview, they're not going to ask you for the marriage certificate, but honestly, they might as well, because to prevent people from doing this, it's just not worth it. But at that point, they're going to flag you anyway for inadmissibility. So it comes to an issue when you have the interview, or I know lately it's been waiving interviews, but I would suspect that even if you did mark your application incorrectly before, I'm just going to say use the word incorrectly as opposed to lying or misrepresenting. But when they find out, you're going to have to file a waiver. Okay. And who knows, you might not be eligible for a waiver because you need to have a U.S. citizen or resident, spouse, or parent who can show hardship. Okay. You got to explain that. Now, so most people forget that. It doesn't mean that. So if you have a marriage case, then you're good to go on that. You have something that we call qualifying relative. So that's good. But before I go into that more in detail, welcome to greencardguys.tv. You need to know this. Do not give up on your legal status. Many people fail to respond to RFE or file an application before the deadline. This is why we offer a strategy session for 15 minutes at no cost to you. Not everyone qualifies. First, you need to speak with our CARES team. We receive many requests, so we recommend you answer a few questions on our website, greencardguys.com. Our mission is to help people live and work in America legally. Go ahead and subscribe below and follow and share. Talk to you soon. Does USCIS look at your old applications? Okay, so I've told you yes, they do. Do they look at your I-20 for student visa? I can't imagine a situation like that, where a scenario where there's like a red flag, like the DS-160, where it has a question about marriage. But there's nothing in the USCIS policy manual that says they cannot look at prior applications. The government, these agencies, are getting better in sharing information and having it real time available. Okay, it used to be where the officer would tell us, "Oh, I need to review XYZ file. I don't have it, so we're gonna have to reschedule." That's honestly ridiculous. In some ways, it's good that they have the technology finally and policies to where they can obtain information more quickly, because we don't want to delay your interview. Okay, we just want to get it in and get out and get done with it. But for those who have not filed an application before and you're just thinking about lying, don't do it. Okay, please don't do it. It's going to come back to bite you. It's going to cost more money legally. And some lawyers might not tell you this, because obviously, if it's going to cost more money and time, you would have to hire a lawyer, right? I mean, I would hope you hire a lawyer than a notario. But anyway, or your auntie is going to help you. Some people think it's just the forms. Yes, filling out forms is the easy part, like your name, date of birth, where you lived. Sure, of course. You fill that out yourself, but it's more about the legal strategy because we have several. Just another scenario. Well, I'm going to stay on topic as best I can. I have just so many stories. But one more thing about this situation, this question of the day: does USCIS look at my old applications? Yes, they do. Is it the end of the road? No, you still have a chance. Okay, and that's called a waiver, the 601 application. All right. So there is something else called 601A application, the form, but that covers unlawful presence. In a situation where there's a misrepresentation or fraud, that misrepresentation can be considered omission or telling something that's incorrect, essentially. So even if you think you didn't not do that intentionally, then you still have to technically admit that you did the wrongdoing so that it'll allow you to continue with that application. Okay. You don't want to wiggle around it because you're going to get an RFE, request for evidence. It's just going to waste more time. And so you have to show hardship, okay, to your qualifying relative, a spouse, or a parent who's a US citizen or a resident. All right. It's very, very important that you explain that. And it's long story short, of course, this is just a quick overview. It's not just hardship, like what would my qualifying relative, how would they potentially suffer or currently suffering hardship in America while I am potentially hypothetically outside America. But also the second way you have to explain is what is a hardship if your qualifying relative is also with you outside America. Okay, so there's two different ways. We've reviewed when people get RFEs and call us or they get denied and we look at the whole file. We're like, okay, yeah, this is a clear example. I really don't like to give people a hard time, but that's why I have the live show, to share these situations without going to full detail. Of course, everything is confidential, but yeah, you have to make sure, you really have to hire a lawyer that you trust, of course, obviously, because we get a lot of calls and people don't like their prior lawyer. I mean, maybe the lawyer's a good person, right? Obviously, good person. Oh, sorry, not obviously, but maybe they were a good lawyer contacting you, a law firm at least, maybe not the lawyer himself or herself, because we just strap a time. But they don't call you back, right? If it's been like a week, that's a little bit ridiculous. That's kind of a long time. But for us, we call back, like, we really try our best if it's during the week within 24 hours. Okay, we're not perfect, of course, but we get a lot of complaints, not about us, but about other law firms. And it's sad to hear, but that's why I try to help and give tips to my colleagues and friends here and there, so they understand that we're in a customer service business, okay? Not just a legal business. All right, so let me get to the questions. I could go on and on about waivers, and at the end of the day, don't give up. You might qualify for that. And one more thing about these waivers is that you don't have to have a medical condition or illness to get an approval for a waiver. Okay. A lot of people think that when they hear the word hardship, it doesn't have to be that. It can be only financial, for example. And we're very fortunate as a law firm that we've been 99%. If I can put a percentage to it, I won't go in detail right now on the show. I can only do that privately on a one-on-one consultation on why the other one was denied, but it's not on us. It was actually the client's spouse. Everything's confidential, so I'm just going to leave it at that. All right, and until next time.